Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Paper World, where we are solving past paper questions of IGCSE Physics 0625. And currently we are doing the chapter Electricity and Magnetism. And today we are doing its topic 4.2, which is electric charge. So let's start. But before we begin, kindly like and subscribe the channel. And if you find anything helpful in my videos, kindly remember me in your prayers. Thank you. So let's begin. Question number 1. A metal rod is placed on a balance and another rod Y is brought close to it as shown. Which combination of charges would cause the change in the balance reading as shown? Acha, if we look at the balance readings, so the balance reading has increased. First it was 45.3 and then it was 45, then it is 45.7. So the question is which combination of charges would cause the charge in the balance, would cause the change in the balance reading shown? Okay. So if the mass has increased, ठीक है, तो there must be some external force that is being added to the beam balance, ठीक है. So both charges would be causing repulsion, ठीक है. Repulsion होगी इन दोनों में, तो external force apply होगी और weight बढ़ेगा. Okay, so this is the principle behind the increase in the mass, ठीक है, sorry, not weight, mass. So the combination would be that the both of these would have the same charge on them, ठीक है. So A is the correct option. If the charge was not the same na, so the balance would have reacted in another way, ठीक है. And if one was charged and one was not charged, so the answer would be different as well, ठीक है. So if the mass is increasing now, so there must be some external force that is being added to the beam balance, and that would only be because of repulsion between these two. Okay, so they would have opposite charge on each other. Okay, question number 2. A power source is connected to a resistor XY. In which direction are the conventional current and the flow of the free electrons through the resistor? Okay, we know that the conventional current always flows from the positive end of the battery to the negative end of the battery, and the electrons always flow from the negative end of terminal of the battery to the positive terminal. Okay, so the conventional current direction would be from Y to X, okay, or the electrons would be flowing from X to Y. So we will look at our options. That gives us the same answer, this. The conventional current is flowing from Y to X over here, and the free electrons are moving from X to Y. Okay. Question number 3. In the diagram, rod R is suspended from an insulating thread. When the positively charged rod Q is brought close to rod R moves away from the rod Q. Which conclusion can be made from this observation? Now, this rod was so they say that rod R moves away from rod Q and rod Q is positively charged. Is pe to we don't know what the charge is there on rod R, and if this rod is moving away from rod Q, so this would have positive charge as well, and repulsion would be happening over here. ठीक है. So same charges we know that repel. So rod R is charged, but it is not possible to identify the sign of the charge. We can identify it, so it's wrong. Rod R must be positively charged. Yes, this is true, and B is our correct option. ठीक हो गया? Question number 4. Which statement describes the direction of an electric field at a point? The direction of electric fields is the direction of force on the positive charge. Okay, it is always the same. Now when we do it like this, so when it's positive in the middle, तो a positive charge is always, sorry, positive charge is always moving away. ठीक है? Like this. So, the direction of the electric field at a point is the direction of force on a positive charge. ठीक है? Question number 5. A plastic rod is rubbed with a cloth. The rod becomes positively charged because of the movement of charged particles. Which row gives the name of these charged particles and the direction in which they move? If the rod has become positively charged, so they must have moved away from the rod. Obviously, these charged particles that have caused the rod to become positively charged are electrons, and they must have moved away from the rod, that is from the rod to the cloth. Okay? So electrons and from the rod to the cloth. So B is our correct option. Okay, ji? Which substance contains large concentration of free electrons? Aluminium and glass. Glass is not a metal, so it won't have a large number of free electrons. Copper and water, no, this is not the case. Copper and nylon, no. Copper and silver and gold, yes, this is the right answer because they both are metals. So they both will have free moving electrons. That is why they conduct electricity. Question number 8. A teacher wishes to show the production of electrostatic charges. She holds a rod and rubs it with a cotton cloth. A copper rod, a glass rod, a plastic rod, and a steel rod are available. Which rods would both be suitable to use? Acha, whenever we charge something with friction, na, so it has to be an insulator. It doesn't has to be a conductor. ठीक है? So looking at these options, this would be a conductor and this would be a conductor as well. So this and this glass rod and plastic rod would be charged by rubbing cotton cloth because it does so by creating friction. So this is to induce charge in insulators. ठीक है? So glass rod and plastic rod B is our correct option. ठीक है? And I've told you why the other options are not correct. Question number 8. A plastic rod is rubbed with a cloth. The rod and cloth both become charged as electrons move between them. The rod becomes negatively charged, and which diagram shows how the rod becomes negatively charged and shows the final charge on the cloth. If the rod has become negatively charged, the cloth would have become positively charged. And why did this happen? Because the electrons from the cloth have moved to the rod. Okay? Electron movement would be from here. तो ये नेगेटिवली चार्ज है, इलेक्ट्रॉन मूवमेंट जो है वो ये है, फाइनल चार्ज ऑन द क्लॉथ वुड बी पॉजिटिव. सो बी इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन. यहाँ पर द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आर मूविंग फ्रॉम हेयर टू हेयर, सो दिस इज नॉट करेक्ट. यहाँ पे भी इलेक्ट्रॉन मूवमेंट इज नॉट करेक्ट और यहाँ पे द इलेक्ट्रॉन मूवमेंट इज करेक्ट, बट द फाइनल चार्ज both won't have the same charges. If a negative charge has been induced on the plastic rod, the positive charge would be there on the cloth. ठीक है? So इस वजह से B is our correct option. Question number 8. A plastic rod is rubbed with a dry cloth. The rod becomes positively charged. Why has the rod become positively charged? Because it has lost electrons. ठीक है ना? To whatever was used to charge it, cloth था, rabbit fur था या whatever. ठीक है? Neutrons का तो कोई काम ही नहीं है, और if it had gained electrons, it would have become negatively charged. So it has become positively charged, so it shows that it has lost electrons. Question number 10. How are positive and negative ions formed from atoms? Okay. Positive ions are formed when atoms lose electrons, and negative ions are formed when atoms gain electrons, because atoms there is a positively charged nucleus, and the negative charge is in the electrons surrounding this nucleus. So if atom is electrically neutral, ठीक है, because the number of protons and electrons are equal. So if an atom loses proton, yani positive charge, so it is going to become negatively charged. And if the atom loses electrons, so protons would become more and so it would become positively charged. Okay. So I hope you all know this principle. Now let's look at the option. It becomes positively charged because add positive charge to the nucleus. No, it has become positively charged because it has lost um electrons. Add positive charge to the nucleus. Positive ions. No, this is not correct. Remove positive ions from the nucleus. No, negative ions इसलिए नहीं होते. Remove an electron from the atom, so it is going to become a positive ion, and add an electron to the atom and it is going to become a negative ion. So C is our correct option. Okay, question number 11. Which diagram shows the electric field pattern and direction around a positive point charge? I just showed this to you that because it's electric field pattern is the force acting in the direction of the positive charge is moving, so this is going to move away from this. Okay, so A is going to be our correct option. Question number 12. A plastic rod and a dry cloth are uncharged. The rod is now rubbed with cloth and they both become charged. The rod becomes negatively charged, but some charged particles move from the cloth to the rod. What is the charge on the cloth and which particles move in the charging process? Okay, if the rod has become negatively charged, ठीक है, तो the cloth would have become positively charged, and this is due to the fact that electrons have transferred from the cloth to the rod. ठीक है, तो charge on the cloth would be positive and the particles that moved would be electrons. ठीक है, so C is our correct option. Moving forward, question number 13. A plastic rod is rubbed with a dry woolen cloth. The rod becomes positively charged. Which statement is correct? Electrons move from the cloth to the rod. No, if this would have happened na, तो the rod would have become negatively charged. ठीक है? In this case, the cloth has become negatively charged because the rod has become positively charged. So the electrons must have moved from the rod to the cloth. Okay? Electrons move from the rod to the cloth. Yes, this is the correct option. Protons don't move when charge is induced. Okay? It's the movement of electrons. Question number 14. Which diagram shows the electric field pattern around a positive charge? So around a positive charge, it is always going to be in the outwards direction. Okay? Question number 15. Which diagram shows a graph of current against voltage for a filament lamp? The graph for a current against a voltage for a filament lamp is always directed towards the voltage. Okay? Because as this shows the gradient shows resistance, and as the resistance increases, it becomes difficult for the current to increase, like when so that it becomes, yeah, it forms a straight line graph ke both the quantities are increasing. As the resistance goes on to increase, so the current now increases at a slower rate. Okay, so that is why it's always bent towards the quantity over here on the x-axis. Okay, okay, the voltage is increasing but the current is increasing at a slower pace now. Okay, question number 16. A negatively charged plastic rod P is placed above a positively charged plastic rod Q. Okay, what are the direction of the electrostatic forces on rod P and on rod Q? Acha, the electric field lines are always going to be from the positive to the negative side. ठीक है, तो electrostatic force on rod P जो है, that is going to be acting upwards and this is going to come down, so this is going to act downwards. ठीक है, so ये इसको नीचे खींच रहा है इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स और Q को ठीक हो क्या? So question number 16. A metal sphere R is suspended from an insulating thread. Another sphere S is brought close to sphere R. Sphere S has a negative charge and is attached to a plastic stand. The diagram shows the sphere when they are close to each other. Which charge state of R accounts for the behavior in the diagram? Now, this is negatively charged, and the sphere R is being attracted to the sphere S. So, this means it is going to be positive charge because opposite charges attract each other. If this was negative as well, so this would have gone into repulsion. ठीक हो गया? So, ये आपको समझ आ गया था कि this was be positively charged. So, which charge state would R account for the behavior? Negative only. Negative में repulsion होती, positive only. पॉजिटिव में आपकी क्या कहते हैं अट्रैक्शन हो रही होती, नेगेटिव और अनचार्ज भी बिल्कुल गलत है, पॉजिटिव और अनचार्ज दिस इज करेक्ट. ठीक है, या तो वो पॉजिटिव है या अनचार्ज है. ठीक है. ओके. Question number 18. A plastic rod is brought near to a small plastic sphere suspended from a stand. The sphere is repelled by the rod. Sphere is being repelled by the rod. Why is that? The rod and the sphere have like charges. Yes, this would most possibly be the right answer. The rod and the sphere have unlike charges. If they had unlike charges, though they would have repelled each other. The rod is charged and the sphere is uncharged. Achha, one of these options are like this, लेकिन the rod is charged and the sphere is uncharged, ये ठीक नहीं है. The rod is charged, उसमें अगर if one thing is charged and the other is uncharged, तो repulsion कभी भी नहीं होती, attraction हो सकती है. The rod is uncharged and the sphere is charged. नहीं, ये भी नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि अगर ऐसा होता तो स्फीयर रिपेल ना होता, रॉड उसको रिपेल कर रही होती. ठीक है. सो ए इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन. Question number 19. Which diagram shows the electric field patterns between two oppositely charged parallel metal plates? Parallel metal plates में इसी तरह होगा और positive से negative की तरफ move कर रहा होगा rather than moving from negative to positive, because the conventional current always moves from the positive terminal of the battery to the negative terminal of the battery. ठीक है? Question number 20. A stationary charged particle is in a field. Which field can cause there to be a force on this particle due to its charge? Gravitational field charge की वजह से नहीं होता. Magnetic field जो है वो charge की वजह से नहीं होता. It's due to a magnet. It might be due to that, but the force on the particle due to its charge would only be due to an electric field. So D only is the correct answer. Yani C only is the correct answer. Question number 21. A student rubs a plastic rod with a cloth. The rod becomes positively charged. What has happened to the rod? If the rod has become positively charged, then the electrons must have moved from the rod to the cloth. If it would have gained electrons, so it would have become negatively charged. It gained protons. Protons have nothing to do with this. It has lost electrons. Yes, C is the correct option, and it has lost protons is obviously not the correct option. So C is the correct option. Okay. Question number 22. An isolated metal sphere is positively charged. It is then brought near to another isolated metal sphere that is neutral. Okay, what happens to the charges on the neutral sphere as a positive charge sphere is brought close to it? Okay. Some positive charge moves to the left and some negative charge moves to the right. Okay. Some positive charge moves to the right and some negative charge moves to the left. ये तो कभी भी नहीं होगा, because यहाँ से positive charge sphere is being brought, तो यहाँ positive charge induce नहीं होगा. ठीक है, तो this is the not correct. Some positive charge moves to the right, but the negative charge does not move. No, this doesn't happen. Negative charge is going to move readily towards this side. The positive charge do not move, but negative charge moves to the left. Yes, this is the correct option. Okay, negative charge moves more readily. Okay. Question number 23. A negatively charged plastic rod is brought near to an uncharged metal sphere and held there. What happens when the metal sphere is earthed? अच्छा जी, एक जी आपका metal sphere है which was uncharged. ठीक है, ये एक स्टैंड पर ऑब्वियसली होगा या किसी नायलॉन थ्रेड पर लटका होगा. नेगेटिवली चार्ज प्लास्टिक रॉड इज ब्रॉट नियर टू इट. ठीक है, ये negatively charged plastic rod है, तो what would happen is that positive charge is going to get here and negative charge is going to go here. So when this is going to be earth, so the electrons की concentration is more on this area, so they are going to move from the sphere into the earth. ठीक है, तो electron movement would be out of this sphere. ठीक है, so let's look at our options. Electrons flow from the metal sphere to the earth. Yes, this is correct. पॉजिटिव चार्ज का तो कोई काम ही नहीं है, और जब नेगेटिव चार्ज रॉड इज ब्रॉट नियर टू दिस, तो द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स गो इनटू द अर्थ. ठीक है, व्हेन द पॉजिटिव चार्ज वन इज ब्रॉट, तो द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स गो from the earth to the sphere. 24. Diagram 1 shows two thin uncharged strips of plastic. Okay. Diagram 2 shows the same strip after they have been rubbed with a dry cloth. Yani the distance between them has increased so much they must be repelling each other. Okay. Which row describes the charge on the strips after rubbing and the force between the strips after rubbing? The force would be repulsion and the charge would be the same. Okay. The charge is opposite and attraction, no repulsion. Opposite attraction. Though the charge is going to be the same, obviously that's why it is causing repulsion. The same and repulsion. So D is our correct option. Question number 25. The diagram shows point X between two charged plates. Which diagram shows the electric field pattern near X? It's always straight parallel lines from the positive end to the negative end. Okay, so A is going to be the correct option because it shows the direction of these lines very correctly. Question number 26. Which diagram represents the electric field due to a negatively charged conducting sphere? If it's negative charge, na, so it is going to get attracted towards the middle. तो 26 का ऑप्शन जो है दैट इज गोइंग टू बी ए. ठीक है, क्वेश्चन नंबर 27. The diagram represents two different electric fields. A single electron is located in each of the fields. Which row gives the correct direction of force on the electron and the field in which there is larger force on it? Acha, now we can see that the distance between these lines is less than the distance between these lines. ठीक है, तो the stronger force experience would be in field 1. ठीक है, and now we know that if the lines are moving in this direction, so this is going to be the positive end and it is going to be moving towards the negative end. ठीक है, so if there is a direction of force on electron to be shown, so the electron would be moving towards the positive side. ठीक है, so the direction of force would be these arrows. ठीक है, these are not going to work and the large force is going to be in field 1. So A is our correct option. ठीक है, question number 28. A positively charged rod is held near to but not touching an uncharged metal sphere. The sphere is briefly now connected to earth. The rod is removed. Which statement about the charge on the sphere is correct? It is charged negatively because negative charges has moved from the earth to the sphere. Acha. A positively charged rod was held near. Acha, what happened? We can just quickly draw what has happened. This was an uncharged sphere, ठीक है, and a positively charged rod was brought near to it, not touching it. Even if it's not touching it, so it's okay. It was, oh, sorry. Now it has touched it. अभी ये ना है ना वो होगा नहीं. Let me okay, now the rod is not touch. It's again started to touch. अच्छा जी, the positive charge rod is brought near. So what is going to happen is that the negative charges are going to concentrate over here. So when this is going, and positive charge is going to be over here. So when this is going to be earth now, so here the concentration of positive charge is more. So electrons are going to move from the earth to the sphere. Okay, so that is why option A is correct. It is charged negatively eventually when the earth is removed and then this taken away, so this is going to be negatively charged. Okay, and because the charged have moved from the earth to the sphere. Okay. Question number 29. A student tests the electrical conduction of four materials: aluminium, iron, plastic, silver. Which material conducts electricity? Okay, electricity is going to be conducted uh, by aluminium, iron, and silver. Plastic is an insulator, it doesn't conduct electricity. Let's look for options जिसमें तीनों present हो. So option A में ही we have found all the three: aluminium, iron, and silver. Iron is going to conduct electricity as well. So that is why it's not correct. Iron, silver, plastic out of these is not going to conduct electricity. So this is not correct, and plastic only cannot and has no power to conduct electricity or act as a conductor. What is the unit of charge? The unit of charge is coulomb. Question number 31. Which quantity is measured in coulombs? Charge is measured in coulombs. Okay. Current is measured in amperes. Electromotive force is measured in volts, and power is measured in watts. Question number 32. Which material is a conductor of electricity? Glass, plastic, and wood all are insulators. So brass is the only one which is a conductor. Question number 33. The diagram shows how a positive point charge. Which diagram represents the pattern and the direction of the electric field due to the charge? The direction would be outwards. Okay, because over here there is a positive charge, so it's going to be repelled. Question number 34. On a very cold day, a boy puts one hand on the metal handlebars of his bicycle. He puts the other hand on the rubber hand grip. The metal feels colder than the rubber hand grip, although they are both at the same temperature. Why is that? Metal has a higher melting point than rubber. This is true, but this phenomena doesn't explain this fact. This fact, sorry, doesn't explain this phenomena. The metal has a lower thermal capacity than rubber. What is the thermal capacity, by the way? The ability, basically, to raise the temperature and then the ability to resist lowering that temperature as well. ठीक है, दोनों चीजें ही. तो क्वेश्चन नंबर 34 का आंसर ये नहीं है. थर्मल कैपेसिटी का ताल्लुक इससे नहीं है. द मेटल इज अ बेटर थर्मल कंडक्टर देन रबर. यस, दिस इज करेक्ट. द मेटल रेडिएट्स मोर इंफ्रारेड रेडिएशंस. नो 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 नो. So C is our correct options. Question number 35. A polyethylene rod is rubbed with a cloth. The rod becomes positively charged because of the movement of the charged particle. Which row gives the name of these charged particles and the direction in which they move? Acha, when the rod has become positively charged, so the cloth would have become negatively charged, and the charged particles obviously would be electrons, and they have moved from the rod to the cloth. ठीक है जी. The charged particles are electrons, no doubt about it. Direction of the movement would be from the rod to the cloth. ठीक है जी. So B is our correct option. A student holds a rod in his hand. He rubs the rod with the cloth. The rod gains a positive charge. Okay. Of which material could the rod be made, and which transfer of charge has happened? Okay. The rod has become positively charged, so obviously this has become negatively charged. The electrons have moved from the rod to the cloth, and the material of the rod can't be plastic, because whenever this charge is induced, so the material of the rod is always made with some kind of an insulator. So it could be plastic, glass, or any other thing other than a conductor. Okay, and the transfer of the charge, negative charge from the rod to the cloth. Yes, this is the correct answer. I've just showed that to you. 36 की answer is C. Question number 37. Which diagram shows two charged metal plates? Each diagram shows two charged metal plates. Which diagram shows the pattern and the direction of the electric field between the plates? If there are two electric field that are parallel to each other, so ये दोनों तो direction होगा ही नहीं. It would be like this, and the movement would be from the positive to the negative terminal. So C is the correct, D is the correct option. C is the correct नहीं क्योंकि the direction of the electric field is shown to be from negative to positive, and it is from, actually it is from positive to the negative. ठीक है. Question number 38. Two similar balloons hang side by side on insulating threads a short distance apart. They are both rubbed with the same dry cloth and become charged. Which diagram shows how the balloons hang after charging? Okay. When two similar balloons are rubbed with the same dry cloth, they acquire the same type of charge. ठीक है, either both become positive or either both become negative. And as we know that the like charges repel each other, therefore the charged balloons will repel each other. ठीक है, so this one shows two charged things, like charges with like charges on them repelling each other. ठीक है, so B is going to be our correct option. Question number 38 हो गया. 39. A beam of cathode rays passes between two parallel charged metal plates in a vacuum. In which direction is the beam deflected? Cathode rays are basically are electrons. ठीक है, तो electrons जो है, if they are moving in this field, so they are negatively charged particles, so they are going to deflect towards the positive side. In which direction is the beam? Into the page, out of the page, to the left of the page, or to the right of the page? So this shows that it's going to be deflected towards the right of the page. Okay, so D is our correct option. Question number 40. Which group contains only good electrical conductors? Air, carbon, graphite, plastic. No, plastic is not a good conductor. Air, gold and mercury. Gold और mercury तो कर सकते हैं आप, but air, C is carbon, copper, mercury. All of them are metals. So C जो है, those would be good conductors. यहाँ पे फिर plastic आ जाता है, which is not a conductor. So C is the correct option. Which is the worst electrical conductor? Worst electrical conductor would be sulfur, which is a non-metal. Which particle does not experience a force due to an electric field? It would be a neutron because it is electrically neutral. Alpha particles are positively charged. Electrons जो हैं वो are negatively charged. Protons are positively charged as well. So C is electrically neutral. So C is going to be the answer.